Hello everyone, my name is Derrick Edwards and welcome to Free Tour by Foot's Harlem Virtual Walking Tour. Today we are starting out 135th Street and Lenox Avenue off the number 2 and 3 trains, and some of the stops that we are going to see are the Schomburg Center, the big mural at the Harlem Hospital, Abyssinian Baptist Church on 138th, Shriver's Row. Then we're going to mosey over to the Harlem Walk of Fame, make our way over to the New Amsterdam Musical Association, go to Harlem's famed Restaurant Row, and end at the world famous Apollo Theater. Now make sure when you watch this video that you like us also on YouTube or Facebook or wherever else you see us, all right? All right, here we go. So Harlem begins back in 1658 as a Dutch town, and there's still a Dutch town of that name. We're going to take you from there all the way up to when it explodes and becomes the largest black neighborhood in the world for the better part of 50 years. And then you're going to also learn about all the other groups. There's a lot of groups here in Harlem and its history. And speaking of history, one of the reasons we start here is the Schomburg. This is today one of the largest research centers on black culture throughout the world. Started because Arturo Schomburg was a young student and was told by his teacher in his native Puerto Rico that blacks have no history. That inspiration led him to finding tens of thousands of artifacts in black culture, and today this center has over 1 million. You'll learn all about it when you're here. We're here at Harlem Hospital. Now the mural behind me is very significant. It's the first mural done by African Americans paid for by our federal government. The huge glass mural that you're seeing displays 3 excerpts from a 12-piece mural located inside of the hospital's special gallery. The fuel mural is titled The Pursuit of Happiness, and it depicts the story of the African diaspora from village life on the African continent all the way to the plantations in the South and into the modern Mecca of Harlem. The mural was commissioned in 1937 during the Great Depression by the Works Progress Administration's Federal Arts Project. So we are outside of Abyssinian Baptist Church. Now this was started in 1808 by Ethiopian seafarers. And it has a very important reason it became its own independent church. Now, this church at one time had the largest single Protestant congregation in the United States. And it is still one of the most politically active and influential churches here in New York City today. Now, a lot of you want to know about the gospel services. Well, one thing I can tell you, when you go into this church, get here early. If it's the 11 o'clock service, get here like 9:30, 9:45. They're like Willy Wonka. They got the golden tickets. They got 300 of them counted out. And if you don't get one of those people to get in line and get one of those tickets and you get there and it's too late, you just don't get to come in. One important note about Abyssinia Baptist Church. There are other churches, especially toward Lenox Avenue, just below 125th, that don't mind you coming in for just a few minutes and leaving out. Abyssinia is not one of them. They expect you to be for the whole service. And if you grew up Black Baptist like I did, you know that means an hour and a half, 2 hours. Oh, don't let the Holy Spirit be catching them. It's easy to go to 2.5 before you know it. So a little background to Abyssinia Baptist Church. Now, right next door to Abyssinia Baptist Church was where this new apartment building is, and you can actually see it's being called the Ren. It was the Renaissance Ballroom. Now, this was one of Harlem's famed Renaissance ballrooms, and a quite Harlem twist. Notice that the Renaissance Ballroom was right next door to the church, so it made for some interesting times. Now, there was legendary musicians like Tito Puente, Duke Ellington, and Casey and the Sunshine Band that played here, and a legendary basketball team is also from this site. You're going to learn more about them in due time. Now, right across the street is one of the most important things we go by on our tour. This is the Know Your Rights mural, important date 2013. That is before the hashtag Black Lives Matter comes up, but it has to do with so many things that has caused a lot of turmoil in the social climate in the United States right now. The Know Your Rights mural is one of several works of art placed in Black and brown communities throughout New York City. Unfortunately, at the time of recording, the mural was covered up while being restored and hopefully will be visible if and when you pay a visit. Now, the mural seeks to educate and remind citizens of the rights they possess when confronted by or dealing with law enforcement, and it also deals with decades-old questions about the administration of law to communities of Black and brown people. So we are here on Shriver's Row. These were the first homes started with indoor plumbing in New York City, and now indoor plumbing is an amenity we just can't simply live without. So boy, have times changed. If you look up in the windows, you'll also see a beautiful hat collection. We'll talk about that, American Hat Institute. This is where the first big Broadway Black composer, Will Berrien Cook, lived and had gallant parties here. This is also where the first Black musical, Shuffle Along, was written from in this neighborhood. It is still one of the most alluring and respectable neighborhoods in all of Harlem. And it got the name Shriver's Row because when Black people were not allowed to buy in here, they worked hard to get themselves finally the opportunity to buy. So when they got to buy, they called them the Shrivers, to work hard or to strive. And it is thus known as that even to this day. They never tell you they live on 138th or 139th Street between 7th and 8th Avenue. They always tell you they live on Shriver's Row. That's real Harlem if y'all don't know. And they say it Harlem. Act like you know.
So if you're enjoying the tour so far, why don't you go ahead and click that like button, help others discover this video. And if you would like to watch more walking tour videos like this one, then also consider subscribing to our channel. We offer tours in Washington, New Orleans, Boston, San Francisco, London, Berlin, and many more cities. And if you have any place that you'd like to see us offer a video tour of, then leave your suggestions in the comment section below. Now back to the tour.
So we're at the Harlem Walk of Fame. So if you made a major contribution to the social fabric of Harlem, that could be through activism, that could be through politics, that could be through entertainment, music, song, dance, because Harlem is all of that and more, your name may be out here. For instance, the first and only Black mayor so far in New York City's history, David Dinkins, is here, and a Howard U alum, just like me, whoop, whoop, HU. Vivian Robinson and her contributions to Black theater, National Black Theater, and the Lafayette. Arturo Schomburg, who we already talked about. We already talked about Arturo Schomburg earlier in the tour. We're going to jump down to Percy Sutton, who had a big hand in helping to save the Apollo and was Manhattan's borough president also. And just as important, the first national hero of Jamaica, whose idea of Pan-Africanism stretched across the globe. At one time, over 1 million supporters. And he came to us with still very important colors. Red for the blood of the people, black for the people, and green for the land. It's a symbol of Pan-Africanism everywhere. We are talking about Marcus Garvey. He is very much emissary of Black empowerment, and he is a direct link to Dr. Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, and Malcolm X. They all looked at him as an inspiring figure. As we go along that Walk of Fame, and there's more names like Ella Fitzgerald and James Baldwin, but right now, you can't come to this stretch and not see somebody else who has their name right up here at the Walk of Fame. We're talking about spending a night in Tunisia with, of course, Dizzy Gillespie, the great trumpeter. So you really have to take this mural in. Two different artists did it, of one of Harlem's brightest lights, but there's Dizzy, blow, as Stevie Wonder once said. And so You're getting to see all these great names and their many contributions to history right here at the Harlem Walk of Fame. So we're standing right outside Thurgood Marshall Academy, which was actually started by Abyssinian Baptist Church, but this is where Small's Paradise. Now this is one of the most legendary nightclubs in Harlem's history. So you were a real player, you ain't come here at 9 or 10 o'clock, it's cool. But if you're a real player, you come in here about 2 o'clock in the morning because you stayed for the breakfast dances. You heard me, breakfast dances, 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. Now, a who's who of people over the years, and not just black people. We're talking about Mae West, Irving Berlin, who didn't like segregation, so they came to this integrated club. We are talking about a haunt of Malcolm X at one time. He was still Detroit Red back then. And we are talking about the New York Knicks championship basketball team. So you know it was a long time ago because the Knicks don't win nothing nowadays. And one of my all-time favorites too is Howard Hughes and Ava Gardner actually came here. So I mean, you name a who's who of segment in society, they all partied at Smalls, and everyday black people. That's very important. Across the street, we are moving to the YMCA, often called the front porch of the Harlem Renaissance. Now, a best-selling book was written here by Claude McKay. This is the first place that Detroit Red, who I just talked about, if you were listening, lived when he was in Harlem. He loved going to Small's Paradise. That's one of the reasons. Willie Mays lived here when he first went to the New York Giants, the baseball great. And Jackie Robinson taught the kids basketball at this YMCA. And we'll talk about what it still does to this day when you're out here with us, okay? Yeah, so the YMCA, not YMCA, that one's in the Village. This is a different YMCA. We are here at the New Amsterdam Musical Association. The first unionized black musicians started in 1905. They took over the building in the 1920s. And this is where a host of black musicians have stayed because they couldn't stay downtown because blacks weren't allowed in a lot of midtown and downtown hotels. So from Fats Domino to James Brown and many other names, but you'll learn about some Harlem artists that also got their start and rise. And this is still in use today. So the New Amsterdam Musical Association. Now, as we walk back to Lenox Avenue, and if you know Harlem, they always say Lenox, they never say Malcolm X. They always, immediately know you're out of town when you say that. This area, 130th Street here right behind Lenox, is called Astor Road. This was once summer homes for wealthy people. So yeah, that's summer home in the country. Yeah, Harlem's changed a little bit since that time, huh? So we're continuing to walk to one of my favorite places. One of the great artists in Harlem, and his name is Franco the Great. Now, Franco the Great, for free, made beautiful murals on old buildings and on a lot of pull-down gates, security gates, to beautify Harlem in the 70s and 80s when Harlem was going through one of its roughest periods. And now we're going to see that mural, Welcome to Harlem. He just made himself like a cool b-boy looking person, but his stuff is all over. It's right outside the Apollo. It's all up and down 125th Street. Many people call him the Picasso of Harlem. So we are about to see the Welcome to Harlem mural here in just a second. Lenox Avenue is also known right around 125th as the Restaurant Row of Harlem, and that's due to Sylvia's and the Red Rooster, which we'll talk and see in just a little bit. Now, see, you gotta keep your eyes up. This is New York. They don't give you a ticket for jaywalking, you just get hit by a car. A little rougher than that. So, Jacob's, great place if you're looking for something cheap, buffet style food, but yo, every time I come here hungry because I know I'm gonna eat quite a bit. They have from vegetarian to carnivore, so they got you covered. And some mean sweet potatoes, collard greens, and a little banana pudding. Welcome to Harlem. You gotta have a little fun. You gotta edge it out a little bit. The bling on his necklace, wristwatch, and his eyeglasses, and his earrings too. So Franco the Great, the Picasso of Harlem, and he did this for Jacob's Restaurant. What up? I don't look as good as you, but I'm gonna try. We're here at the Queen of Soul Food. This is Sylvia's. For over 50 years serving Harlem. Originally, it was just a little counter, and Sylvia came here to Harlem to be a beautician. But things changed, and she saw a grand opportunity to take over a restaurant. She put a lot on the line, and she ended up becoming famous because of it. It expanded. People from Nelson Mandela to both Presidents Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. Liza Minnelli's got pictures in there. Madame Albright, the first female Secretary of State. You name it, they've been eating up in here. She got her hot sauce selling in London. So a world famous soul food restaurant, but to really understand, Sylvia's is understand the fabric of Harlem. When she died, horse-drawn carriage come up Lenox Avenue, and there were people all over both sides of the streets to pay their respects. So when you're here, you'll hear more stories in depth, including a couple guys that worked for her and actually know what she was like as a person. Today, her children and grandchildren run this restaurant. Now, we can come to see coming up the Red Rooster. This is the love of, named after a place that was originally on Shriver's Row, which you've talked about and seen earlier. But this is the brainchild of Marcus Samuelson, the famous celebrity chef. He was President Obama's chef at the first White House dinner for President Obama with the Prime Minister of India. And there was even a big presidential fundraiser in the second term. He's running for a second term for President Obama. From Paul McCartney to Calvin Klein, you name it, they've all eaten in here. It's one of the hottest places. You gotta be here when the music is going on and people are literally sitting between you as you're eating dinner and singing to the music. Oh, it's crazy. That's a little bit later in the night. That's not at 7, but it's a little later in the night. It jumps off. So the Red Rooster, one of a kind place, world-renowned chef Marcus Samuelson. So this is part of Harlem's now restaurant row. They have more than one, but you got it. The Red Rooster here is what we're talking about. Oh, he's the greatest dancer. Well, for me, I'm an okay dancer, but that's the way we get down here in Harlem World. Red Rooster. Come check it out at some point. The greatest dancer, and wonder why he's never seen. I wonder why. Welcome to the Waldorf Astoria of Harlem. This is, at one time, its great hotel. This is the Hotel Teresa. Now, blacks were not originally allowed to come in. Somewhere around the 1930s, blacks were allowed to come in. And when it did, it became the most prestigious hotel in Harlem. This is where Joe Louis celebrated winning his heavyweight championship. The after party happened here. It was a great place to shop also. Ella Fitzgerald was known for doing it. But one of the biggest events is when Cuba's own Fidel Castro called this home for several days, and he met several other world leaders. So the great and famous Hotel Teresa, they're always selling shea butter and soaps right here on the streets of Harlem. I'm glad to see. I got to keep my brow pretty, so good to see you always, bro. Sister, always good to see you. Good, good. That's the vibe. 125th Street is the main strip here of Harlem. You have the beautiful African art, the benches, the mask. They sell right here on the streets. You see the colors again, red, black, and green. We are walking to the Apollo. Yes, named after the god of sun and music in Greek mythology. But this Apollo is not from Zeus. What it is one of the great places of American entertainment. There used to be a burlesque theater, and then it switched over. is when they got the famed amateur night to come from the Lafayette Theater that it really took off. One of the first winners, some of the first winners of the amateur night include Ella Fitzgerald, the Ink Spots, and Thelonious Monk. All three of them would go on to have illustrious careers in music. And here's the big thing about the Apollo. Be good or be gone. It's actually on the sign. So if you're good, woo! They'll clap you up and down. But if you bad, watch. It's vaudeville style. You get booed off the stage. It's just as fun to come and see somebody tear down the house or get booed off. You're going to be entertained either way. Now, the Walk of Fame in the front, these people are known by one name, like Aretha, like Gladys, like Shaka, like Stevie, like Michael, like Prince, like Tito. And if you don't know any of them names, you need to be ashamed of yourself. That's all I have to say. So, the world famous Apollo Theater, where we end our tour here in Harlem, one of his, still to this day, one of his best known places. So there's the Apollo Theater. We want to thank you to coming to Free Tours by Foot. You'll put up my Venmos, should be appearing on the screen. Oh, there it is. And my PayPal and other ways you can get in contact with me. Always good to see you. My name was Derrick Edwards. This is it right here from Harlem World. Much love. Don't blame it on the sunshine. Don't blame it on the moonlight. Don't blame it on the good times. Blame it on the Derrick. Don't blame it on the sunshine. All right, y'all.